Hello and welcome to Predictocast, the spookiest podcast around where we predict a spooky movie's spooky storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else spooky about it. I'm Josh Goblin.
Wait. That makes no sense.
And with me, as always, is Skeletal Spooky Skinner.
What do you mean not know anything spooky about it?
It doesn't have to make sense. It's spooky.
I mean, it's more of a body response to something, say, like your voice, that just automatically just activates a chemical inside of you that causes revulsion.
I'm going to do the whole show in this voice because it's our last Halloween show.
I'll see you next episode.
Okay, I won't do that to you. This is our last episode for the month of October. It's very sad. Halloween is almost here. We're almost done talking about scary movies until we do it again in a couple weeks. Who knows? So it's a little wistful, but I do feel like we are going out with a bit of a bang. Sort of. I'll couch that in some. There's some caveats there, I guess. But we are talking about the rest of Without Warning. From 1980, directed by Graydon Clark. This month kind of became an impromptu Graydon Clark-a-thon. We talked about Uninvited a couple weeks ago and then moved on to Without Warning. And I'm kind of happy we did this because neither of these movies are good, but I enjoyed both of them.
Like, both of them have padding, which in a movie like this where you want craziness,
for sure.
Like, sometimes padding almost ruins it. It doesn't really in this one because everything kind of flies by. I'm glad we did this. This feels like a movie podcast should do. And by our track record, in 2 months, a bigger show will almost certainly do this movie, and all the fan base will go, holy shit!
Yeah, we can just say that now. That I think maybe either by the time it'll probably be by the time this episode comes out. The Flophouse, who we had Dan on the show a couple months back, they are also covering Uninvited.
Well, the thing is, Dan, I don't think he's on that episode. So if we had asked
no,
him
he is.
Is he? Oh, damn it. If he wasn't on that episode, we could have had Dan on our show to do the movie, and then it'd be one piece, and we could ride some coattails.
Yeah, we're not saying they copied us or anything. I think they announced theirs a long time ago, but I didn't realize that was the movie. I saw Uninvited, and I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't realize that it was the same one that we were doing, because I know there was like a later, horror movie remake or something that was out. So I thought that was the one they were doing. I didn't really put any thought to it at all, honestly. And then seeing that they are covering the 1987 Uninvited with famous author Gillian Flynn is like, oh, okay, cool.
They had the better episode. But hey, if you like Dan McCoy, we have an episode with him. Go to our back catalog. One of our many great guests on this show. What I love about this movie so much, right from the start, is that this is a movie. So many horror thrillers will say, let's put in a crazy old man to intimidate the young folk of the movie. This movie is so brave in that it said, how about we structure the movie around two crazy old men?
Yeah, they're dueling crazy old men in this movie.
And like the cast, besides that, David Caruso was in this movie for a hot second. It's one of the 4 teens, which David Caruso's a teen in this movie,
and killed immediately and off camera.
Yeah, like they're all nobodies. And like he was a nobody. This is like a second role. He's nobody. The 2 crazy old men are Jack Palance and Martin Landau. This is their movie. This is a movie of dueling crazy old man movie. And it's Jack Palance and Martin Landau. Landau is just doing a tour de crazy force in this movie. What is it? Like,
yes, he is a lunatic in this thing.
He's lit like a lunatic. Like, this is a movie about an alien hunting humans. So let's get that out of the way right away. That's what this is about.
It is. However, it's Predator, but 8 years before Predator. it's
Predator, 8 years before Predator, starring as the alien, the guy who plays the Predator.
The guy who plays Predator.
In a much, much less kinetic role. But God damn it, there's a good 30 minutes of the 90-some minute runtime is Landau just doing this PTSD, just monologues, like lit, and there's people talking to him as Sarge. You know, if somebody's a crazy guy who can't figure out if he's in reality or not and have flashbacks to the war and everything like that, just call him Fred. Calling him Sarge doesn't help
I was
him.
very confused hearing him Sarge. I was like, oh, is this the cop? And like,
no.
Nope, it's not.
That cop killing scene or shooting scene was amazing. The way it's lit.
It was so funny.
There's so much in this movie that's just them in a bar. Like, after the good guys, or half of them, escape utterly and cleanly.
Yeah.
Early in the movie.
They get away. They could leave the movie midway through.
Their car doesn't break down. They don't live in this town. They've got nothing. Like the people they're with are already dead. Like they could go to any place to get authorities, but just get away. Instead, they just hang out at a bar in this town for, at least Greg does, for an extraordinary length of time. So Martin Landau can do just these monologues and argue with other bar patrons for a long time in this thriller. It's crazy that they did this. And it's also very good for the budget.
It absolutely is good for the budget, but it also makes me wonder if that like whole scene in the bar, like I was expecting like, oh, okay, the lights kick off at a certain point, and I was like, oh, is the alien going to show up and start like wreaking havoc and killing people? And it's like, no, they kind of just hand wave that away by saying, oh, we've had issues with power outages around here for a long time, so it's not probably the alien. But it's like, did the alien knock the power out to make them think that Martin Landau's character was even crazier than normal? Like, is the alien against them in some way? Like, does he know that this crazy man is after him? Like, I had all these questions about the alien's motivation, how it decides on its victims. There's a whole bunch of questions about it that don't get answered.
Like, does the alien, like, does he ever hunt in the city? Because he does attack. Like, there are his weapons, whatever you want to call them, outside the bar. Like,
oh yeah, the flesh discs.
The flesh discs. But like, otherwise, it's not like this. Like, yeah, everyone who goes into the woods in this movie, minus one person, ends up dead in this entire movie, right? Like, yeah,
pretty much.
Without fail, the alien attacks them in some way or whatever, right? Yet this is not a town that even though there are two crazy old men in this movie. This is not a town of people who are hiding an extraordinary amount of missing people or death. Like, this is like, it's not like it's crazy. Like, when you have one of these towns with two crazy men in a horror movie, you have all the people in the town, in this case the one bar, because of budgetary reasons, are all like, you know, what are you doing in my town? Where do you like are you know, you're an outsider, we don't want to hear from you, blah blah blah. Or like, they're very insular, and if like outsiders die, who cares? Most of the people in this bar appear to be very friendly.
Yeah, they seem really nice. The bartender seems very lovely. She's got a very thick kind of New York-y accent, but I don't know what she's doing in this little small town.
I don't know. It's Sue Ann Langdon, and she's been many, many things for many, many years. But she's like, everyone, like, she's just trying to like calm everybody down. They take Sarge way too lightly, considering what he does. They're like, oh, hun,
yeah,
he won't. He's just all damaged from the wall. Before we knew what PTSD was, but he don't harm nobody except for he shoots the sheriff.
But before we go through kind of the plot, I will say that you brought it up a couple times. Budgetary things are, I think, what hold this movie back, and also I think what holds Graydon Clark's stuff back in general. And I feel like there's something. Even with Uninvited, I feel like there are stories there that were they remade with bigger budgets might do something. And I would say that Without Warning could be remade with a bigger budget, but it's kind of basically just a Predator movie at that point. But it's still like remake this today and put Lance Henriksen in the Jack Palance role and sign me up. Give them a couple $1 million more than they had making this movie, which is probably like less than $1 million. And like, I'm there. I would be totally on board watching Lance Henriksen fight a weird alien, which now that I think about it is probably just that Pumpkinhead movie that he did in the 80s. So give me one of those.
It is a lot of movies. It's Predator. It's a better Dreamcatchers. It's like, better Dreamcatchers is like any movie that has an alien in it. But like it becomes like, the Monster in the Woods, which is it's a good idea. Woods are scary, right? And they're dark. Except for they're not in for the first part of this movie, but they are later. But like, and aliens aren't overdone in 2020, if that makes any sense. Like, zombies are overdone, right? A lot of things
we have what, 3 or 4 Walking Dead shows.
3 or 4 Walking Dead shows. They just made a new a sequel to Train from Busan. Like all these, like it's a very easy trope because either enemy doesn't have to have a nationality. I mean, that's what it is in video games. That's what it is in movies. You don't have to like say like, oh, we're fighting people from this country. We're fighting zombies. They're dead already. It doesn't matter. If our good guys can kill tons of them, it doesn't matter. But for some reason, I don't feel like there's a lot of aliens attacking us movie. Like, not like a War of the World, but like Predator, where like it's an alien,
small scale
fucking with humans, where you don't expect it, right? That would be it would work because it always will work. But like both this and Uninvited, a lot of the problems have to do with the budget because it ruins the pacing. Because in one of these movies, what you want to do is you have moments of quiet, but you have tension throughout, right? Because you're building the tension towards the final confrontation, where in the boat movie, if you had a real monster that wasn't an adorable cat, something on this small boat, if you had a bigger budget, you'd have a bigger boat. But like the boat, you're trapped on the boat with a thing, and you feel like every moment could be your last, right? And you're running out of space, you're running out of food, you're running out of places to go because you're trapped at sea. In the woods, if they weren't so easy to get away from, like their car broke down or something, there was some reason why they couldn't just drive away like they could in this movie. You just have to just slowly build it, or the alien follows them or comes to town, and just like you build it. But what the problem with this movie is, because it can't afford to do too many scenes that involve the special effects. There's a lot of moments where
we don't even see the alien, I think, until the very end of the movie.
But it was so worth it. But like, there's a lot of just the scenes at the bar, or the scenes on the boat in the last movie where, for whatever reason, even though they're dying one by one, they stop and just chill for a while and hang out and listen to music. And it's like, you wouldn't do that. Like, you would disassociate to some degree, but like you wouldn't be like, just, someone doesn't pull a gun on you and then like 2 scenes later, you're both of your arms behind your back and you're just chatting in a nice suite. In this one, it's long periods where a lot happens at the start and then nothing happens. Like, and it's not like we're building up to the next thing where they have near misses. Just nothing happens. It's just Martin Landau doing stuff. Luckily, he's so crazy, and at times, what's fun about pairing him with Jack is that they're both tall, reedy fellows with weird stances and kind of
wild hair in this movie.
And wild, Landau looks like a mini giant, which is kind of hard to explain, by like his eyes and chin and hair and everything are big, but he's not. He's a big dude. He's 6'1", but he's not.
Here's what they look like. This is what they look like. Martin Landau looks like Ebenezer Scrooge, and Jack Palance looks like emo Peter Parker from Spider-Man 3. That's what their hair looks like in
I
this
don't
movie.
understand it. I don't understand Jack Palance's hair at all. Like, it doesn't seem to want to be there even. Like, at times it's on there just unwillingly on his head.
How old?
Like it's
how
trying
old
to move
do you
off.
think he is in this movie?
Oh my God! Like,
how old does he seem to you?
I think he's about 65.
Oh, okay, you're close. He's 60.
Okay,
but like, he feels so much older.
He does, but like I know that I kind of knew what age he was in the 90s thanks to City Slickers and his resurgence. But like, wow, what is he like? So the idea is that he's the good crazy old man and Sarge is the bad crazy old man.
Yes. So let's go through.
How good is he?
Well, we can decide that. So let's go through kind of the sort of breakdown. There's not much of a plot here, but let's kind of walk through it because we meet Jack Palance pretty shortly after we come back from the first segment.
After one of the girls meets Martin Landau in the bathroom, which is not what you want to do.
No, yeah, she meets Martin Landau in the bathroom, which we kind of covered at the end of part one, and that message that we talked about on the wall, the no hope, no escape, whatever thing, that seems to resonate with him quite a bit throughout the rest of the movie. But they go in because they want to. Well, David Caruso, he doesn't want to pay for the gas because he's like, nobody's here and the gas pumps are unlocked, so I'm just going to give myself free gas. But they're like, well, we can't do that. We have to do the right thing. So they go into the gas station. Lots of taxidermied animal heads around and stuff. They find a hat full of baby rats, which I didn't understand what that was.
Nothing ever comes of that, does it?
No, I didn't know if that was Jack Palance's or if he just put a hat out because there was a pregnant rat walking around and he wanted her to have a comfortable place to give birth. I don't know. It's never explained. Doesn't matter. It's just scene setting and color for this gas station. And Jack Palance comes out and his first lines are, "What the hell are you kids doing here?"
I love that because he runs a gas station with pumps. This is literally his business, right? Like this, and this is where you would go in to pay. I mean, like in general, like I suppose back then, if he was actually doing his fucking job and was at the pumps, they would pay him from their car back then when he didn't pump their own gas. But like, he's so like like imagine walking into like Walgreens. And it's a creepy old man. They go, "What the hell are you doing in here?" I'm like, it's a fucking business. Like,
yeah. So he's playing the full-on horror trope of old man at gas station who warns kids to stay away. But the movie just decided we're gonna have that trope, but also we're just gonna make him a character.
We're gonna have like he's gonna warn them, and then he's gonna come back later. Also, we're gonna have a second crazy old man as well.
Yeah.
I want to explain, like, you haven't watched a movie that's done this. I promise you that there's no other movie that quite has the dueling crazy old man that this movie has.
It's really wild for this film to sort of start like, and we thought this was going to be the case. It starts as if it's this teen like horror movie where we have this group of teens who are going out to the lake for the weekend and they're going to get into some debaucherous things and they get warned by a crazy old man, and then you think, oh, okay, so then the alien's going to be hunting them down for the entire movie. Even the poster has those 4 kids on the front of the poster in front of the van with the alien silhouette above them, and you're like, okay, so those are our main characters. And it's like, no, actually 2 of those kids are kind of your main characters, but really only one of them is. And then also these 2 old men are like sort of your other main characters.
Like, it starts with that kind of opening as far as like it goes all the way. Like, there's these teens going out to the lake to have relations, and they don't skinny dip because the movie doesn't have nudity. But like, and it goes almost the entire way with it. And then it just kind of like says, you know what? We're more interested in Jack Palance and Martin Landau for a while. And and you think like, okay, they're going to get back to these kids at some point, and they don't for quite some time. And in a way, like it's interesting because it does open in that very, very classic way, like and absolutely the way that Cabin in the Woods makes fun of, right?
Yeah,
like all the parodies and twists and stuff. But this movie is kind of predates the movies that did this.
Yeah, I mean, this was 1980, so this was even. I mean, when did Friday the 13th came out? I think around the same time. Was that 80 as well?
Yeah, that was 80 as well, but no one knew that was going to be a hit at the time. Sleepaway Camp is 83.
Yeah, so it is a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit before all of those, which is really interesting. Like there was obviously like the bigger ones were like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, and I guess you can kind of see the Texas Chainsaw-y thing with the gas station, but not really, because they're played so differently, and like Halloween didn't really have any of this stuff, so it's interesting to see like how that all sort of predates the things that you're expecting it to be kind of copying. And I'm sure there's other things that maybe we just are not thinking of that it does, reference, but it is pretty interesting. I mean, it is entirely possible that Friday the 13th, which came out in May of 1980, they saw this and then used elements of that with like the, creepy guys and because there's Crazy Ralph, I think, in the first Friday the 13th. But like, I can't remember, it's been so long, but like that, they could have made this in the because this came out in November of 1980. So they could have made this in the gap of time between seeing the first Friday the 13th and putting this out.
It could be, but like it's so that start, and then just it isn't interested in it for quite some time. And like a lot of movies at this point, even like horror movies, were exploring that Vietnam veteran kind of warped by the war, right? And it puts that in there almost to the point where, like, I know it's 1980, so like a lot of movies did it afterwards continuously, and I know it had happened before, but like there are parts of Landau's monologues that are almost like a cartoon version of what you expect this character to do in those movies, but it predates a lot of them, which is kind of odd. Like it all like how it also predates Predator. But yeah, like they get warned by this old man not to go to the lake. He won't say why, because you can't. And he basically won't tell people what he knows because he doesn't want to be considered crazy like Sarge, as he says later. But it's also very useful to the plot. So they, if in general, if somebody in a place like this, that like this room like this with this hat full of rats and wall full of shit, who like when you talk to him about hunting, he goes, "Oh, that's a good sport." It's a good sport.
Yeah, he does tracking. That. Yeah, he does that thing of like the killing ain't the sport part; it's the hunting and the tracking.
And like if someone says that to you and then says don't go to the lake, assume at best they're going to hunt you.
Well, and yeah, because he even says it's hunting season and there's been accidents up there. And you're like, okay, well, I'm never going to go up there. Thank you for the warning.
I mean, and so that happens, and you're like, okay, cool. I almost forgot about the dad and the large adult son from the beginning at this point. But let's flash to, because we just don't have we can't have we can't for whatever reason have a organic body count in this movie. Like if the alien had come to follow them to town, you could have an organic body count where the alien's coming after them and the townspeople are in the way. That is not what this movie does. Much like with the dad and the grown son in the first part, and this time we have kind of out of nowhere and disconnected from the rest of the movie, we have a scoutmaster and his scouts, and laugh out loud funny, the scoutmaster doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. This was kind of wild to me that this just, when we just cut away from Jack Palance screaming at them not to go to the lake to all these Boy Scouts singing the 99 bottles of beer on the wall and their scout leader singing glory, glory, hallelujah.
I didn't understand that.
And he stops them and he's like, I've always dreamed of leading you into the wilderness like this. And they're asking him all kinds of inane questions like which Native American tribe killed Custer. And
is that a question like American kids ask?
I don't know. That was a weird thing to me, but like he just sends them off to kind of explore and do some stuff because he's like out of his element. He doesn't know what he's doing. And also his bunions and blisters are killing him. And this is when he spots the Winnebago on the top of the hill and he goes up to look at it and knocks on the thing and he's like, oh, I need some help. And I was like, what's the problem? And then that's when he reveals that his blisters are killing him. And
that's why he's left kids alone in the woods.
Yeah, he's like, go off on your own and just do whatever. And he hears some weird radio interference, which I never totally understood what was going on with that.
That also never kind of, like, there's certain things, much like how the cat had a monster in it. There's a lab at the start of Uninvited, and then it never mattered who they were or why that happened because it's all at sea. They introduce a couple ideas of like there's kind of interference or radio sounds involved with the alien, and then it doesn't matter because no one's ever using that against.
And I thought, like in the first, in the first part, we have that part where the large adult son says, "Oh, the water smells weird and it tastes weird," and I was like, "Oh, did the alien do something to the water?" And then later, when we find the alien sort of Jack Shack where he stores all the bodies, it says the water department on it, and I was like, oh, cool. Did he do something to the pipes? Did he put some weird chemical in the water to make people more docile so he can hunt them easier? And it's like, no, they didn't do any of that. Like, it has nothing to do with anything. Why this water department shack is in the middle of a field with nothing around it never comes up or is explained.
Which is amazing. I believe we watched the longer cut of the movie because there's two cuts. There's the original cut, which is about 80 some minutes, like 89 minutes.
Oh,
and there's a restored version of it that's 97 minutes. And I know this movie was over an hour and a half. So
yeah, this has to be the 97-minute version. We did not, just to be clear, and hopefully we don't get in any trouble for this, we watched this on Daily Motion because it's not available anywhere else. We would have rented it if it had been available on Amazon. Did not appear to be. So we found a rip of it on Daily Motion and watched it there, and that appears to be the 97-minute version.
If it's not like, God, why are there certain budget $150,000?
Yeah,
but like there's certain things that are kind of introduced and then not really important, and like the movie is as like the plot is. It is super simple and doesn't need extra stuff. It's fine that they do it. It's just weird that they even suggest it.
Yeah, they like add all this stuff. He goes out into the bush and he's kind of looking around. He finds, I think, the gun and maybe the radio from the large adult son. And then he tries to light his cigarette on a rock, which I thought that was like an interesting trick if it had worked, but he can't even figure out how to do that. And then he gets one of those weird flesh discs in his back. And again, I was still under the impression that maybe the movie was trying to be like, oh, they're messing with the environment in some way, and so this is their punishment. But because I thought, oh, he's trying to smoke, and that's harming the environment, so now he's being punished. But that's never a thing. That was just me trying to read something deeper into what this movie was.
Yeah, I mean, this movie isn't saying anything. Like,
no,
it like I don't know what it's maybe trying to say something about Vietnam, but otherwise, I just don't see it. Like, it's about an alien that's killing people in town and two old men. But like, as far as the alien isn't a character, except for he's a character. But I don't know what this whole thing was about.
No, I love when we get back to the scouts, and it's just this big group of kids standing in an open clearing throwing rocks at the ground, and one of the scouts goes into the bushes, and there's like a shadow around him, and everyone turns, sees it, starts screaming, and takes off running. So is the alien just wandering around in the noonday sun?
Yeah.
How has not the entire town seen him then?
Well, it's not even it's not heavy woods.
No, it's kind of very
brush.
open.
It's open brush, and he's taller than the Predator, because it's the Predator guy who's tall plus some extra head height.
Yeah,
and
he's 7-8 feet tall.
He's blue. He's wearing silver. Like, he's like, even Mr. Burns, who they went all doped up, they thought they found him in the woods, right? Thinking he was an alien in that Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
And the people from Springfield are stupid. How would this escape your notice?
Yeah, it's
are we to assume, because we never see the bodies, so we hear about that the sheriff is busy trying to find some city scout kids who are lost. Do they die in the woods?
I don't know. Well, no, because the sheriff is looking for the kids before he gets shot by Sarge.
So he must find them. So the alien,
or maybe not. Maybe they're dead.
It's left unclear. Everyone else is very clearly dead. Even ones we don't see die.
No, yeah. I mean, like we never see. That's my one big issue and complaint about the movie. I mean, the movie's not good, but like the biggest complaint is there's not enough. We don't see enough death. Like, we see the weird fleshy discs grab people and jab their little tendrils in, and then like weird goo starts coming out. And like, that's well and good, but we don't see that happen to everyone who dies, which is weird. And we don't see like how ultimately they die. So like in the instance with David Caruso and other girl, I can't remember her name. Beth, that's right. Tom and Beth. When they die off screen. We don't even see the disc things attach them. They just are in a scene and then they're gone from the movie. And we see their bodies hanging in the shack later, but like we don't see how the alien actually kills people. Like, I don't know if the weird suckers just like suck them dry and put them in like a weird vegetative state so that the alien can eat them later, or if he has to deliver like the killing blow. We never see any of that. So there's really no clear like idea of how this stuff happens, which I would have liked to see. And again, I know it's budgetary, but I like would have liked some more like violence against the characters. Like, let's see how the alien kills them.
Well, because we only ever see him, which in the climax is fucking hilarious. Just kind of frisbee, like very lazily frisbee toss these flesh discs at people, which don't even look like that. When they're it looks like he's throwing like fucking silkworms at people.
It's like a little bit of pizza dough.
Yeah, it's very funny. You have to go out of your way to see these parts. But
I say the last 10 to 15 minutes is worth watching.
Oh, absolutely. But like when we see the bodies hanging in the shack, like parts of their skull are gone, their eyes are eaten out, their whole heads aren't there, there's holes in their body. And it's like, so eventually did the discs eat through them? Or
I think so.
Does he do other because he really doesn't. Because for someone who's hunting them, he just kind of
stands and he chucks those things.
And like, not like a frisbee throw. He just kind of flicks with his wrist. Just,
it's like if you were practicing card throwing. Like, that's kind of what he's doing.
It's like an alien gambit, really. He's like, mon chéri.
I'm here to hunt you.
Well, he has kind of has a long jacket.
Yeah, he does. You're right. He's sort of Gambit-like. That is true. I love when the scouts run off. So who knows if the alien catches them or if they get home okay, or what they explain about what they saw. We never see them again, so who gives a shit? I would have loved to have seen them get to the shack and just a body full of, or just a pile of scout bodies inside would have been great. But we don't see that.
What if? Here's the thing. What if the alien is Q and he has liberated these children?
Oh my god.
He is doing this to save the children.
He's those discs that he's hitting on people. They're injecting them with the coronavirus vaccine.
And 5G chip. He's tearing out the 5G chips in them, and there's some.
Oh, that's what that radio interference is.
It's Bill Gates.
I like that when we cut back to our gang of four, the kids, they're driving in the van and they're just laughing uproariously at nothing. I was so good. There's just this laughter echoing, and I couldn't tell if it was Greg and Sandy in the back or if it was Tom and Beth in the front. They're just kind of rolling around on these dirt roads, just cackling up a storm.
Like what joke is that funny? Maybe they're like listening to a really good podcast. Like, I don't know. It's 1980. Maybe. What is funny in 1980? Are they listening to The Streak? Like, what's funny back then?
I don't know, but like I thought it was mainly in regards to just how crazy Tom was driving, but I don't know, man. They are losing it. They've lost their minds. They went through like a gas leak or something on the way to the lake. Maybe the gas in there, maybe their gas tank is really fucked up and it's somehow leaking fumes into the car and they've lost their minds.
This whole movie is they're just high.
Yes, they get to the lake finally. No one's there, so it's very nice and secluded. Sandy, who I think I called out in part 1, would probably end up being our final girl, and she is. So I feel vindicated there. She has some concerns about whether the guy at the gas station was right. She's kind of unsure about being there. And then she also hears some of the weird radio interference in the woods around the lake. And later, it seems like it's coming from their radio, but I don't know if the alien also has some sort of weird radio thing on him that is creating interference. It's never clear. It doesn't matter.
It's not him, because he sounds like an elephant.
That is true.
Like he like his voice when he finally hear it is literally an elephant.
Yeah, it's an elephant roar or elephant call. And they go and hang out in the lake, and they swim for a little bit, but then Tom and Beth start making out. And so Greg, who I thought a couple of times in this movie looked like Rami Malek playing Freddie Mercury in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
Kind of that cheekbone thing going. Except
yeah,
for like maybe he had like too many aunts who pinched his cheeks the other direction, so he's kind of widened out. He
looks a little bit like that, but they start Tom and Beth start making out, so Greg and Sandy, they leave and they kind of wander around, and this is when Sandy is kind of extra freaked out by the radio interference, and she says, does she say here that it makes her feel like she's lost?
Yeah,
I don't know what they were getting at. And I was like, oh, is Sandy secretly an alien and the alien's here trying to get her back and she doesn't know that she's an alien? I was like, oh, that could be interesting. It's like, no, that's not what they're doing.
No, it's not. And then we really don't, like, considering that Sandy is the last girl, we don't know much of anything about Sandy.
No. She's like new. Like, is she the new person or is Greg the new person? I can't remember from the first 10. Like,
oh, I can't remember at all. I know one of them says, "Hey, what do you think of Sandy?"
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember if that's because they're new to the group or because she's new to the group.
Yeah, I can't totally recall. I think maybe it's that Sandy and Beth are good friends, and Tom is dating Beth, and so he's bringing his friend Greg, and this is the first time that Greg and Sandy are meeting each other.
Something like it doesn't matter because it's never brought up. Like, they're just trying to save each other, and she has. If there was like a real plot of like if she was an outsider, like when a later scene happens where she's like, "Why are we fucking going back? Why do you feel like you have to get revenge against this what happened? There's no way we can win. Let's just leave." Like, she could have brought up like, "I don't even know you guys that well.
Yeah.
Why would I die for you?" And she should, like, I want to stress what's coming up. They can just leave.
So they decide to go back to look for Tom and Beth because they're like, oh, well, they've probably finished whatever they were doing, and they can't find them. So they get in the van and eat some food. We get like a weird transition where it's like, oh, there's food in the van, and then they're dressed and they finish the food, and Greg is like, wow, I can't believe they've been gone over an hour. And Tom and Beth are dead now. They just are gone from the movie. We don't see anything that happens to them until we see their bodies hanging in a shack later.
We see them almost make out. Like, they're in a bikini. Everyone's in bikinis, but like she gets on top of him. They start kissing, and we see a POV shot from across the creek. But that's it. That is like, you would think like you missed something if you fast forward, like, oh, I missed a scene where the disc fly across the river and get them or something. No, that's it. Like, and it's not like they, like, if it was like 1986, they would have gone further and that would have been their sin to die for or something. But that's not what we get in this movie. They're just gone, and then Greg is hungry and they eat, and then he's mad they're gone. Like, it's such a tonal shift post meal. Like, he's reverse hangry.
Yeah, Greg at this point, he becomes more of a character, and then I realized that like this actor must be bad because he starts getting into like a weird thing where he sort of over explains everything.
He later narrates stuff that I don't know why he's talking out loud. It's I don't know. I mean, he mostly does stunt work from what I've seen for like RoboCop 3, so I'm sure he's good, but you know.
Yeah.
It's no one in this is really a character except for Jack Palance and Martin Landau.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Sandy is our sort of ostensible hero at the end, but we don't really know anything about her or like learn anything about her through the course of okay, that's not true. We do learn that she had a music box when she was a child and that it meant something to her.
Yeah, I mean, so she can drop one later when a scene happens.
Yeah, basically. So they go looking for Tom and Beth, and they're kind of going around in the sort of woods, and they find a whole clearing, and then Sandy just falls into a hole in the ground.
Why? Like, he doesn't trap anyone ever again.
Well, no, we find out later that you might have missed this, but we find out later that that's actually Sarge's hole. Sarge has been digging holes all over the woods trying to catch the alien.
Sarge says so much. Like, how is Sarge and what is Jack's name again?
Joe.
Joe. Like, how have they not killed each other in the woods by accident?
I don't know, because the weird thing is that, like, Joe knows there is an alien in the woods. Like, he is aware of it. He has been attacked by it. He has survived.
He survived. He has one of the discs in a jar.
Well, he gets that at the bar later. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so she falls in this hole. And they're able to get her out, and they spot the shed that we've already referenced, and they go in, and they find all the victims so far from the movie. We find the scoutmaster, the old hunter, and his old son. We find both Tom and Beth. They're hanging in this shed, and they have goo falling out of them. and it's very gross. And they run out of the shed and they run off. Sandy's screaming and, freaking out.
This is a very good scene. Like, if the payoff for not showing them dying and having them being surprised that they're already dead and hung up, I mean, that is pretty good. Is a very well-made set of these people who you've seen now much deader than they were last time you saw them, even the ones who were killed earlier.
Yeah.
We don't know why there's less of their bodies and why a lot of their brains and stuff are missing. It's very good, and clearly good enough that they just did this scene again later.
Oh yeah,
with a different character.
Yeah, when Jack Palance comes back, he kind of goes through and we see it all again as if we're seeing it for the first time.
Watching him with his mouth agape, it's the same face he would make when he's the same open mouth face he makes when he's excited about talking about hunting. He goes, that's a good sport. Like, he makes that same face again. I'm like, is he supposed to be disgusted or laughing?
So they run out and then they get to the van and now it's nighttime. And as we commented before about how the movie is shot in the broadest, brightest daylight you can imagine, it's now so dark that you can barely see anything for the rest of the film.
It is basically they shot this live in a tank of ink. It cost them all tons of money, but Ink World was a huge hit.
Yeah, it's wild how much of a transition it is from like going into the shed and it being sort of still daylight out to them running back to the van, and now it's dark as night and you can't see anything. And they're trying to figure out how to leave. They can't find the keys. They don't know what to do. One of the weird flesh discs flies out of the darkness and lands on the windshield with its sucker trying to break through the glass. And then in the van, the side door on the van starts turning very slowly. Like the alien is just really biding his time to.
But like, also, wouldn't you notice this 7-foot blue alien?
You absolutely would. Like, she makes no effort to look out the side of the van and go, oh yeah, there's this big giant alien trying to open the door. And they don't know what to do. And then this is part of, I think, when Greg's like narration stuff starts, where he goes, oh, the keys, they're up here. And then he gets the keys because they're in the little visor where people stored their keys for some reason in 80s movies. I never understood it because I was like, couldn't someone just get in your car and drive away?
Don't we have pockets?
But he gets the thing out and he puts the keys in. The van won't start at first, and then finally it starts and they get out of there. And the little suction cup disc monster is still on the windshield. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And then she goes, use the windshield wipers. And he goes, oh, yeah. And then he uses the windshield wipers to knock it off. He is an idiot.
He's an idiot, but also like that barely works with snow sometimes, let alone a fucking alien sucker disc. Which, like, the alien sucker disc on the car appears to be 5 times bigger than the ones that land the people.
Yeah, it's a very large creature. Maybe this is like a one of the more, he has like different levels of discs that he uses for different victims. Like, he knew that one was going to have to eat through a van, so he threw the bigger one.
It's the sporting class.
So they make it to this bar, which we've already kind of alluded to, and Greg goes in and he's like, I'll find help. You stay here in the car. And he goes inside and he's like, my friends are all dead. And the bartender, as nice as she can be, just says, well, come on in and relax and have a beer.
Like, okay, once again, I want to stress, they got away. They've gotten away in a vehicle with wheels, plenty of gas. They just gas things up. They are free to leave it all behind.
Yeah.
And then go to, instead of small town police, go to the next biggest town and say, there's something in the woods. I'm not going back there. You don't have to investigate by bringing me with you. Because they don't. They don't have to say, show me where it's at. Like, whatever. They could just drive and drive. And they don't.
Yeah. They have to
And,
get revenge, I guess.
well, at what? They don't even like against a starfish that attacked their van. Like they don't even know if it's more than that at this point.
Yeah, they don't know about the alien necessarily. Like they just know that this weird creature attacked their van and their friends are dead. Like they don't know anything else, and it's kind of wild. But they get to the bar and he goes in and he tells them all this stuff, and they want to get some more information before they call the sheriff. And the outside, Sandy is in the van, but there is a big shadow that approaches the van, and she sees it and freaks out and runs out of the van and into the woods and right into the arms of Jack Palance, who's just hanging out in the woods at night.
I can believe that with that haircut.
That is true. It's a very appropriate spot for him. He's probably out there thinking about his feelings and and Greg explains exactly what he saw and like the weird discs and all that stuff. And this is when they bring Sarge properly into the movie, and they say, "Oh, this guy's also seen those flying creatures." And Sarge is like, "Yeah, you've seen them too, huh? I know all about those things. They're here to take over." And everybody kind of laughs at him. He's very much like the like Randy Quaid in Independence Day, where no one believes him and they kind of make fun of him for thinking that the aliens are real. And he still has that same kind of vibe because he's like, you'll be talking different when the creatures are eating your guts.
Yeah, the only difference is that where Randy Quaid is Randy Quaid, he comes off as this like drunk, harmless thing. Like Landau comes off as dangerous.
Yeah,
like the fact that the people aren't considering him dangerous is utterly confusing to me.
Yeah, so they go out into the they go out to look for Sandy, and they find her gone, and Greg is like, "Oh, we gotta find her, we gotta go look for her, we have to figure out what to do." And Landau this is when he kind of flips into this weird sort of war flashback, and he's yelling at the guy, and he's like, "We can't go out into the dark, soldier, or those things will bury themselves in us and never let us go, and I'm in command now." And like he just starts going into like, I am back in the shit and I am in command here.
Yeah, he'll continue to do this where they're like, "Oh, he sometimes get confused if he's still back in the war," which
he's John Rambo.
Yes, like it is every movie from back then is like.
I mean, it is kind of John Rambo because he does kill a cop later on.
Yes, his town has rejected him when he's back after serving his country for 27 years, 23 years.
Yeah, something like that.
But like Landau is so large in this room. Like I can only say that his like posture is looming. His eyebrows are huge and his eyes are bulging and his hair is crazy and he looks ready to pounce on everybody, but also looks utterly afraid of everything. And like that's the most dangerous combination you can get. Like the person who is incredibly ready for action and for violence, but is also afraid of everything. You don't want them voting. You don't want them near your polls. You don't want their help fighting aliens.
So yeah, they're sitting there. Greg's like very forlorn, and Jack Palance comes in carrying Sandy, and he brings her to Greg, and he goes, "I think this belongs to you."
It doesn't.
No.
But I thought it was funny because there's a moment when the bartender, she's like, she says, "Well, you can't find your girlfriend in the dark, so why don't you just sit down and have something to eat?" And it's said in such a patronizing way that you also think she thinks his girlfriend is imaginary, like the Snuffleupagus.
Look at this guy, the way he talks. He doesn't have a girlfriend. So Jack Palance is there now, and he wants to know if they found he hears about the shack, and he's like, "Oh, where is it? Where it stores the bodies?" And then the lights go out in the thing, and I'm like, oh, an alien's about to attack. And no, of course not. But Sarge thinks this because he's like, this is an act of war and siege, and the aliens are going to come in here and take us out. And the bartender leans over to Jack Palance, and she's like, I might need your help with dealing with this guy.
And yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do, because Joe wants to know. Joe is Jack Palance's character. He wants to know if they could find the shack again, because he needs to find it as well. And this is when the door opens suddenly and a figure comes in, and they try to make the silhouette of the person look like it might have a big bulbous head, but it's just a hat that the sheriff is wearing, which causes Sarge to freak out and shoot him.
Yeah, it's so great because like they would talk about the sheriff coming, and that always happens in one of these movies, and it never turns out well, right? But like the sheriff comes in, he's literally just an outline of a sheriff.
Yeah, you can clearly see that it's the sheriff. You can see the star and like his uniform.
But you can't see the face. He's a shadow shaped like a sheriff behind the backlight of the door in the dark room. and then he shoots him, and the sheriff is done from the movie.
Yeah, the sheriff is not like, he's not even a character. He doesn't even get like, his name is Ben, I think, but he doesn't even, like, you don't even see his face ever. So he's just dead on the ground, or he's not dead, but he's injured on the ground. And Sarge turns and he kind of blames Greg and Sandy. He's like, this all started when you showed up. And he tries to shoot Greg, but this is when Jack Palance jumps in and punches him and gets the gun away from him. And he tells the bar patrons, like, hang on to the gun, keep this guy inside. We'll figure this out. So he goes outside with the kids, and he wants them to show him where the shack is. Before they go, though, he sees one of the weird sucker creatures on a post outside the bar. And this is the first of many times where he slices it apart with his knife and cuts it off of a thing. And you just hear this like ASMR style goopy mess. And it happens multiple times in the movie.
He does it casually, like just like, I gotta slice off one of these things again.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know he's got that emo hair and he can't show too much emotion. He's walking around like, sorrow drips into your heart through a pinhole. It's like a faucet that drips. There's comfort in the sound. But he is like, it's a good way to make him like, he's the badass, whereas the military guy is too crazy to be actually badass.
Yeah.
But it's, once again, because they're two crazy old men, you have so many tropes to work with, and you can use them all.
Yeah.
Why hold back? There's two of them.
He wants the kids to go with him and show him where the shack is, and they don't want to go, or at least Sandy doesn't. And he kind of is pretty forceful about seeing it, like finding out where the shack is, because he says if we're not able to tell them exactly where this place is, when they bring more people, it's gonna be too hard. We need to know exactly where it is. He comes up with some very flimsy excuse for them needing to go back with him. And they stop off at his gas station along the way, and this is when he takes the sucker thing that he cut off the post at the bar into his gas station, and he puts it into, like, I guess that was like a jar of formaldehyde, maybe.
I think so. You know, he has a hat full of rats and just has jars of formaldehyde just on the ready to go, just in case.
Yeah, I thought this was like some moonshine whiskey that he was about to take a big glug of before going into battle, but like, no, he just drops this sucker thing into the jar. And this is when we get like some dumb thing where Sandy's like, I don't want to go. And Greg's like, well, we have to, get revenge because Tom was my best friend and Beth was your best friend. And we have to, do something to stop this alien or whatever it is and get revenge from them. And she's like, that's some macho bullshit. I'm not interested.
She still goes because she has no choice because she's just an accessory to his journey. Even though he doesn't survive and she does, but like, it's funny because he's like, we have to do this. We have to do this. He has no plan. Like, there's there's nothing that these two can do on their own to defeat the alien.
No.
At all.
Like, Joe has it all figured
woods,
out, and they're going along with him, basically.
Right. Like, if his plan was just to go back on his own, like, he can't do anything. Like, the second that Joe is kind of incapacitated, they're just back to running again. He's got nothing. When they find the mansion.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the way back to the shack, Joe pulls up his pant leg and he shows them a mark where one of the sucker aliens got him, but he cut it off. And so he says he didn't tell anybody about it because he didn't want to seem crazy like Sarge. And I guess I get his point to an extent, but you have a physical injury and you have this creature potentially now that you could show people and go like, hey, this is weird, right? But anyway, he wants to either kill the alien or be killed by the alien. He doesn't seem to care which happens.
Right. Like, he wants to go to, this is the culmination of his life, the ultimate sport. And like, there's a point later where he gets so excited in a Jack Palance sort of way where he's like, now it's really good because I'm hunting it and it don't know it's being hunted.
Yeah.
And he's just so happy in this dark, inky, unlit woods.
Yeah, he's very excited to be doing what he is doing. And again, it feels very much like Predator when Arnold Schwarzenegger's character kind of realizes like, oh, well, I'm going to hunt this thing now and I'm going to do everything that I can to like turn the tables on it. And they go into the woods and they find the shack and Joe goes over and looks at it and he finds all the bodies and then he goes back to this is one of those elements where it is sort of padded out a little bit. Because he goes back and he's like, well, it's exactly like you said it was. So I believe you.
I know you guys paid to make that shacks look like that with those bodies and all that makeup. So let's just do things almost exactly the same panning shots again.
Yeah. And
it was very nice of the alien to, while it ate up large swaths of the other characters, left Beth's body mostly entirely intact.
Yeah, exactly. They try to leave, but one of the weird sucker flesh discs flies out and it hits Jack Palance's leg and he falls down and he gives them the flashlight and they run off and more like sucker creatures come out after them, but they're able to avoid getting hit by them. And we get another shot of Joe cutting the thing off his leg and it's very squishy and gross and it pops like a bubble. There's one point where he's like cutting it and it just goes and then he ties up his wound and kind of starts making plans for what he is going to do. Around this time I think that Greg and Sandy make it to the road and they are trying to flag down a car and they eventually flag down a cop car and they just hop in the back seat without looking to see who's driving. And lo and behold, it's Sarge behind the wheel.
Yeah, they did the whole speech and then it's Sarge. I'm like, everyone in the world knew it was Sarge except for them.
Yeah.
Due to economy of characters.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we've got to go back and we got to help this guy. Mister, you're going the wrong direction. Oh man, Joe's hurt. He's,
we got to go back. Hey, Greg, stop going back.
Yeah, we got to help Joe. And he's like, I'm not interested in helping Joe. And they're like, oh, it's that crazy old guy we didn't notice before with his wild fucking hair. Like, we didn't realize that's who it was.
Like, Martin Landau's within 5 cubic miles of you. Like, he's around.
And while this is all happening, Joe is gone back to the gas station. He's grabbed some explosives, which that seems very dangerous to keep some explosives in your gas station.
It does, but like he's surprised when anyone uses his gas station and tries to pay him. So like,
that's true. And this is when we kind of turn the corner into Sarge thinking that everyone has been replaced by aliens.
Yes, and that's a fun one that I wish happened more when he was at around more people, because you could have
Yeah.
had more. Because he, like, honest to God, he's the main antagonist of the movie.
Yeah, kind
The alien
of.
is, because he's in the movie way more than the alien. He doesn't kill as many any of them as the alien does, but like he has all the dialogue, the main villain dialogue. So it would have been interesting for have him do this and start picking off townspeople.
Yeah.
Instead, he just does it at this point, and then Greg, being the clever guy he is, rolls with it and tells him, "Yes, I am an alien, and here's my plan." And then he's like, "Cool."
Yeah, he makes up a whole bunch of
'Cause
bullshit about planetary regions and colonization zones.
there's this moment where he's just staring at Greg, like wide-eyed, open mouth, like super into what he's explaining him, and he says, "Tell me about the aliens," and it's such a Lenny from Of Mice and Men moment of "Tell me about the rabbits," that I was wondering, like, what is he basing this performance on exactly?
Yeah, like he is going for it though, which I do give. Like if they have to
I give
have,
him if he's a named person. You know who Martin Landau is to a degree, even if you don't. And he is. You can't say he's not trying.
no, I think it's interesting the way that it works. Like that they have two crazy old men, so they have to do both things. But I'm glad that they figured out a way to make them both separate. They're not just crazy for random reasons. Like Jack Palance is the crazy guy who warns the kids away, but also he's like the badass guy who's going to try to stop the alien, and like he knows that it's out there and he wants to kill it. And then you've got Martin Landau, who's like a complete nut job and who thinks the aliens have invaded and started taking over people. And they're both very distinct personalities, so they don't bleed into each other, which I liked. I like that they were unique enough that it's like you're never confused by the motivations of those characters.
One of my favorite things about it is, like, so when we're introduced to kind of them back to back, but when we meet him in his home environment, Palance seems super crazy. He's talking about how much he loves the sport of hunting. He's got trophies everywhere. He's got a hat full of rats. He doesn't understand why they're trying to pay him at his gas station, which is his place of business. I don't know if, like, when the people come to drop off the oil from the tankers, he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Get out of here.
He seems crazy when he's warning them and everything. When he comes to the bar, and then you can compare him to Landau. Even he's like, "That guy's crazy."
Well, it's
like,
weird.
I don't want
it's
people.
Like
I don't want people. I don't want people to treat me like they treat him. I'm more self-aware than that guy.
It's weird because they sort of switch character traits in the first part of the movie, because like when we meet Martin Landau, he's in the bathroom and he's like talking to Sandy, like, "What are you doing in the bathroom?" And then she is joking about, "Oh, well, my friend needed to use the bathroom and the other one was locked," and he's like, "I'll never understand teenagers." And he seems sort of normal. And then you meet Jack Palance right after that and he seems like a crazy person. And then they just kind of flip-flop where Jack Palance is like sort of normal but old and weird, and then Martin Landau is a complete nut job.
Like, if you told me that there's a small town where there's a 8-foot alien who throw is too strong a word. He
gingerly tosses
within the confines of his wardrobe, flesh-eating starfish at people. And also in that town is Jack Palance. And one of these two are the most dangerous creature in the county. I could believe either one, right? Like, I would not fuck with either that alien, despite his lack of effort, or Jack Palance.
Oh, like, yeah. No.
I'm sorry. Either are going to terrify me.
So Greg and Sandy are able to get away from Sarge by throwing some dirt in his face. And they run away and they get on this bridge and they're trying to get away from him by running directly in front of his car as he drives behind them. I love that. They don't even serpentine. They just run straight down the middle of the road.
Always got a serpentine. If we have not come up to one like thing we've learned from doing this podcast is that a car doing a serpentine is the funniest thing and makes every movie better.
Yeah, see our episode on Firepower. So
holy shit, that was the only thing we're at about 100 movies, right? Where are we at?
Almost. This is 99, baby.
This is 99. This is the Gretzky episode. The only thing that has made, when we've watched together, that has made Josh laugh to tears. It's from Firepower when those fans did the serpentine.
It's great. It's a beautiful thing. So they jump off this bridge. They fall like 200 feet into the water. They survive, thankfully. And Sandy has kind of sprained her ankle a little bit, but that never really is that big of a deal because she's running around later in the movie, so it's no problem. But they find this house right next to the water, and they go inside. And they, try to lay low for a little bit and get changed out of their wet clothes and try to just relax. And this is when Greg's narration really was emphasized to me because he's like, "Oh, here's another light. Oh, I found the light. This light's out. Oh, look at that cat. Oh, I think I left this. So didn't I turn out this light?" Like he just keeps saying things that don't need to be said.
It's like I'm guessing they didn't pay for a soundtrack or something. So they're like, it's otherwise be really dead fucking quiet right here. So why don't you say what you're doing while you walk around?
Well, maybe they're afraid it was too dark to see what was happening. So they're like, just say what you're doing so people know.
You could have written it into the story where he's like, I know you're scared back in the room trying to sleep, which she wakes up scared 2 or 3 times in 2 minutes, in exactly the same way. But he said, okay, I'm just gonna keep talking so I'm here, and you stay comforted knowing that I'm nearby and you're not alone. Except that's not why he's doing it. He's talking to himself and us.
Yeah. So,
these are his last moments. So at least he had some company with me, myself, and I.
That's true. So he puts her to bed, and because she gets emotional over that music box that is not important, and he decides to make a big pot of coffee. And there's a couple times where Sandy gets emotional in the night, so he runs in there to check on her. And they hear a noise, and they find the back door open, and they kind of wander around, and they
this
go
goes
through
on
the
for
house.
A while.
It does. It's weird because there's no payoff to it. They go through the house, and then everything is fine, and then she just goes back to bed, and then wakes up again.
And then she wakes up again.
And then finds him dead. He's dead in this big armchair in front of a typewriter, like he's the fucking production company card for Stephen J. Cannell Productions. That guy who's typing and throwing paper. That's immediately what I thought of when I saw him in front of that typewriter.
It's funny because he sits down with the gun across his lap, and the idea is that he's going to stay up and be on guard. This guy who's kind of been the main character, and then she comes around and he's got a brain slug on him like fucking Futurama, and he's he's dead in front of his typewriter. His eyes are open, his mouth is open, his brains are being sucked out because that's what this thing does all of a sudden, and he's dead. And she screams, and the camera shakes like an earthquake.
And she runs out of the house, and there's this. It's like a house that's kind of up on sort of a platform in a way because it has storage. It's like a weird sort of open storage kind of area underneath the house that's sort of screened in. So she runs in there to try to hide. And the alien kind of crashes through, and the hand tries to grab at her, and she goes into another little area and locks the door, and it keeps coming through. And she's trying to get out via this window, and suddenly Jack Palance is there with his gun, and he kind of starts shooting at the alien. And he's able to help her escape, and they start to go back for the shack, and then he kind of lays out the scant few bits of information that we get about the alien, which is that the alien isn't there to invade the planet. It's just there to hunt and get some trophies, just like Predator. And he says, like, as you already mentioned, I'm hunting the alien now, and the alien don't know it. He's very pleased with himself. And he kind of explains to her, they get back to the shack, and he explains, like, here's what I'm going to do. When the alien comes back, we'll get it to go to the shack, and I've wired the shack with a ton of dynamite. It'll blow up the alien. We will survive, and this will be great. And I'll have killed an alien, and I'll have fulfilled myself with the sport of hunting.
He even has a cartoon Bugs Bunny Acme big plunger for the dynamite.
Yeah, he does.
Which is amazing. It's just amazing. Unfortunately for them, their plot is foiled by two things. One, Sarge shows up. Two, the alien stops and just stands a little too far from the shack. For no reason, it could go to the shack, or it could never not go to the shack. Instead, it comes near the shack, but not all the way
to the shack. Yeah,
it's close enough to the shack, but it's not like it knows that it's rigged for dynamite, because otherwise it wouldn't get closer later. But it just stops for reasons.
Well, so I like this whole scene here. This ending part, I think I liked. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's kind of fun.
It's super fun.
Sarge shows up, and he accuses Jack Palance of being an alien imposter. He's like, all of you have been replaced by aliens. And so Joe and Sarge, they kind of get into a fight, and they're kind of wrestling around, and Sandy grabs this log, and she's about to hit Sarge on the head, but she stops and she turns, and then off in the field next to the shack, we just see the alien finally. And it's like, it's kind of a cool moment. Like, the alien doesn't look amazing, but they don't show it enough for you to, like, they don't show it in clear light because they don't have, clear light to show it. So it kind of works for what they have. Like, it's effective enough that it's sort of a traditional kind of gray alien. It's just very tall and more blue than gray, but I think that it kind of is effective in the way that it's done. And they all kind of stop and they stare at it because they're all sort of seeing it for the first time. And Sarge is like, "Oh, I knew it. I knew I'd get one of these aliens, and I knew that I was right, and now everybody has to believe me." And so he starts, like, strolling over to the alien going, "Are you a leader, or are you just a soldier?" And he's pointing the gun at it, and like, and he's like, you think something's going to happen. And then the alien just does that little weak wrist toss, and the suckers just go on him, and he's dead. Like, he dies pretty quickly.
Well, it's the thing is, like, when you think of the toss of things, like, say, like the Predator throws, especially like in Predator 2, throws like basically buzzsaws, right? It comes with real force. He's really tossing it. It slices through things. It's very kinetic. It's very visceral. It's very, like, you see the impact. You feel the impact, right? Especially everything in that first movie, like everything he shoots, everything he does, like everything has huge impact. Like if the Predator sees you and hits you with any of its weapons, it's devastating. The alien just kind of flicks its wrist at Sarge, and two little silly putty things fly across the screen. They look like yellow worms going across the sky, and they land on him with no impact. They just hit him, and he doesn't stumble back or anything. It's like it just kind of hits him, and he's still standing there. And he looks down, he sees them, he's like, "Ah, that sucks." And then he slowly just crumples, like over a 40-second period of time. Like, it's not. There's nothing dynamic about it, which is crazy when you think about the fact this alien is throwing alien starfish monsters, and like it's never explained. Like, something. Are they other aliens? Did he make them? Are they part of him? It's never explained. But the payoff of it being him just flicking them makes it so it's such a funny visual because he's so big and his arms are so low, and he just goes, huh. And like this like a little weeble wobble goes across the screen like and lands on a guy, and it's, oh my god, it could not be less intimidating or less impactful, and I love it.
It's weird that that's his weapon of choice, like that he doesn't have like a laser gun or some sort of like blaster that would, eviscerate someone or, destroy them from the inside out or whatever. Like, so I think that maybe it is a part of him. Maybe that's how he feeds. Like maybe there's this weird symbiotic thing. So if those creatures suck the fluids out of the victims, it is filtered back to the main alien. Like it doesn't matter ultimately, but it would have been interesting to get like some sort of idea of how it works.
Well, I mean, like the thing is, he's just doing it for hunting, but like the poster says he feeds on brains.
Oh, well, yeah. So we never see any of that, but I mean, except for the heads being missing and stuff, but it never really goes into that kind of detail. And also for it to be brains, the things mostly attack people's torsos, not their heads. So,
easier
whatever.
For special effects. That's where you can hide the jib stuff.
Yeah. So Jack Palance steps out and he takes aim at the alien and he shoots him, and the alien like springs a leak. Like this white water just starts flying out of his arm.
I don't know how to explain it. Like he gets shot in the arm, and then it's like the dam broke, and then he plugs the dam with his thumb. It's supposed to be like intimidating. Like it didn't even hurt him, except for he sprung a leak like he's a water balloon.
He's like a waterbed.
I mean, if our society's gonna be brought down by anything, it's gonna be waterbeds.
So the alien, clears up that leak that he's got going there, and he throws some more. He sticks some gum in it, I guess, like the fucking Rocketeer, and he throws some more flesh frisbees at Jack Palance, and he cuts off one of them, and then he gets another one thrown at him, and he can't quite get it because it's on his back, and he turns to Sandy, and he's like, "You gotta do this. I'm gonna get him close to that shack, and when we get there, you gotta hit that plunger and blow it up." And this is when we get the best fucking thing in this movie. Again, that's why I said watch the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, because you will get to see Jack Palance running, screaming towards the alien, going, "Alien! Alien!" It's amazing.
Alien!
It is fucking amazing because he just keeps yelling alien, and like, but that doesn't even do the full justice because the way he runs with his head down, and like he's this big reedy dude, but he's running at a bigger, reedier alien.
Okay, got some info on this for you from the IMDb. Now take this with a grain of salt. Graydon Clark apparently doubled both Jack Palance and Martin Landau in long shots in which they either run or walk towards the alien.
I could see someone with that wig on or something. It just he's down, his arm. He's Naruto running at this thing, yelling alien. It's so unexpected from a Jack Palance character.
It's so funny.
Very funny.
I lost it.
Very funny.
It's so good. And he gets the alien close to the shack, but he can't quite get him into the shack, and he's yelling at Sandy to push the plunger, and she's like, "Oh no, the wires have come loose somehow." And the alien turns and it starts to go for Sandy, but he doesn't move very fast, this alien. So that allows Jack Palance to grab him by the legs and hold on to him like a child grabbed around their parents' legs when they don't want to go somewhere. And
well, I mean, like we've never established that the actual alien himself, besides throwing frisbees, has any physical prowess himself.
That is true. He is very slow and just kind of stands places, but he's standing there, with Jack Palance around his legs, and Sandy finally gets the wires reattached and hits the plunger, and then boom. And I think this is where a lot of the money went, this explosion, because it says on IMDb that the movie cost $150,000, of which $75,000 went to Jack Palance and Martin Landau as their salaries. So half of the movie's budget went to those salaries. So they had $75,000, about $20,000 went to Rick Baker to make the alien head. So they had $50,000 to make the rest of the movie, and I guess they spent a lot of it on that explosion.
I would imagine the economy of sets kind of helps that. So good on them. They stretched it out. Even though that much of their budget went towards there's two actors, they weren't paid nearly enough.
Nope.
But yeah, like they blow up a shack. I mean, it's a good
explosion though.
Yeah, like it's not like a shitty explosion you'd see today. Like they have some shitty CGI explosion in like half the movies we watch from that time frames, but like it was good. It made the movie end, and that's the last thing you think about was, oh cool, they blew up something, and then Martin Landau's words reverberate through history.
This was such a weird way to end this. Like, don't end it with like a Jack Palance speech or like Sandy doing something. We just see we cut to like a star field, and we hear Sarge's speech. I think it's the one that he gives in the bar, saying about just basically him talking about how we're not alone in the universe, and like we're gonna have to realize that eventually or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I guess that's a good way to end your movie. Like, we know that there are aliens. Give me something else. Give me ideas that there's maybe more aliens out there. Let me see Sandy escape. Give me something. But like to hear this crazy nut job say, "Oh yeah, there's aliens," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I guess he was right all along."
Or it's trying to say something like you're watching this, but you should be more worried about aliens. Like an environmental message at the end of the movie, like, think about it. Just really think about it. Like, no, like it was a fucking alien that threw flesh frisbees at people.
Yeah, it's a weird way to end it, but it ended, and it ended in a pretty fun way. So yeah, I mean, I think that Without Warning is fun. It drags a little bit.
It doesn't need to be 97 minutes.
No, I think they probably made the right choice by cutting it down to 86 or whatever they did for the shorter cut.
It should be 80 minutes.
Yes, it should be 80 minutes. I would have liked some more kills, like some more on-screen kills. I get, of course, why they didn't, but like, it still would have been, I think, more fun to see that. But I had a good time watching it. Like I laughed at certain things, like, and seeing Jack Palance scream alien as he runs towards it is so good. And like, amazing that isn't also a thing that you just see pop up on the internet from time to time, of him running towards an alien going, alien. Like, why did that not come up when everybody was talking about Naruto running towards Area 51? Like, why were people not using that clip? Maybe they were and I just didn't see it, but like, that would have been a perfect example of a thing to use in a meme for that.
So many people love like Jack Palance, like crazy performances, or like even his brief moments in Batman and everything. But like, man, like this was something. Like, there's a lot of good moments from him in this, and he's got this death cab haircut, and like, God damn it, it just really. It really should be more of a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just for that, for him and Landau alone, forget the alien and the flesh things. Like, I'm surprised more people don't talk about this. Like, by the maker of joysticks, here's this alien movie with these two guys.
Yeah, for sure. Like it I mean, I'm sure it does have quite a cult following, but it's just not big enough that I have, become aware of it before now. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's going to do it for our coverage of Without Warning. And it's kind of sad because it's the end of the month and Halloween will be here before you know it. And, we're moving into Thanksgiving times. The end of the year is closing in and, election day is coming.
It is almost, yeah. More comforting. Hallmark Christmas is coming and will be 24 hours and 7 days a week for the next 2 months. In case you need to escape from reality.
Yeah.
They'll be there. That will be there for you. If you're into that. There'll be new PlayStations and Xboxes and all kinds of things for you to avoid possible terrible realities. I don't want to jinx this one. There was another election back 4 years ago. I don't know if you heard of it. Beforehand, I was on another podcast with a guest of ours on the show, Kip Reed, and we mocked the chances of a certain person in the election. It turns out that a lot of white men and women, when curtains are closed, are a lot more racist than they would be on the phone when being polled.
Yeah.
I think they're mostly in the open now and aren't hiding, so we actually know their numbers. But I don't want to jinx it like I did last time. We pretty much stopped the podcast cold after that because of depression.
Yeah. So, take this opportunity that, you should, hopefully you can, you are registered to vote. Hopefully you have probably already voted at this point in early voting that's been available in many states. Maybe you're planning to actually go to the polls on election day. And if so, good luck to you. Stay safe.
Your work would like you to only take a reasonable amount of time, and they will be watching your clock till you get back because this fucking country won't make it a fucking holiday and will judge you for being gone too long on a day that they know the poll lines can be incredibly long and dangerous.
Yes.
So take that with a grain of salt. The capitalists who employ you don't really give a shit.
This is also
so you have to give a shit. You have to give a shit beyond the little shit they want to give you.
But yeah, so, Halloween is coming up and it's ending here on the podcast on the main feed. However, I will say that on October 31st, Halloween Day, over on Patreon, we are dropping our episode on Hellraiser 7, I think. Hell World, I believe, is the subtitle for that one. So if you want to know all about that, you can head over to patreon.com/predictocast and sign up there. Tons of bonus episodes available there for your listening pleasure right now. But until next week, when we are back with a mini episode setting up what we're doing on the show, as we always do. I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us. Happy Halloween, kiddies. If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. To get monthly bonus content, sign up at patreon.com/predictocast. As always, thanks for listening.
So I have a question for you, and for any listeners who are still listening this long on the show. Say you were given $1 million to spend one night in a haunted house. Would you do it?
Absolutely, because I already live there.
The answer is always yes.
Like if
Anyway,
you could watch one
happy
movie
Halloween.
for like $1 million like 200 times, would you do it?
If it is one of those fucking Easter movies we watched.
Yeah, you got to watch Beaster Day.